So, what a Grimsby week that was. Absolutely atrocious. It's one of those games where I just didn't feel like there needed to be any sort of like mind paid to it. You thought, wow, surely nothing untoward would happen. But with Manchester United, if you were, if you thought you knew what disappointment was before, then hold your breath because they shall exceed your expectations. After what was an absolute shambolic, historically bad result against the first time we've actually lost to a League Two opposition ever in the club's history since the club was formed. Um, we are staring down the face of complete abyss of an a complete abyss. Um, no words really to describe what is the outlook lying ahead. I mean, people trying to figure out what the points haul is going to be over the next three games. Burnley tomorrow at 3 o'clock, not a televised game. I think there's a lot of people who'd be quite glad about that. But off the back of a result that could have been a complete destruction by Grimsby. They could have had 4 or 5 on us. It was that bad. And we go into a game against Burnley with confidence on the floor. A manager that's contemplated leaving and quitting the job several times over, which this is what the title of the video is what now for Amorim? What now? What can we say for Ruben Amorim? What is the future like for him? Because I don't know if it's maybe it's just me, but generally, a part of me finds sympathy for a manager that feels like he's left such a short hand by the environment like supplied to him, where he has an idea, but he needs every other factor to uphold their end of the bargain to end up finding out that such little has been done in your favour. Like coming off of a longish summer to start pre-season to find that your club's only put one player through the door. It can be quite demoralising. However, maybe there is a feeling about the character of our manager where the mood or the feeling should be never say die, to never give up and actually push people to say, well, it's never over until it's over. And if we've got a manager that's contemplating quitting, and by the way, we've had this story featured about 2 times before this, where it's felt like, oh, I really felt like, oh, this just isn't right for me. That perhaps I should reevaluate where it is I'm going here, or what it is that this project is, because maybe I'm not the right kind of person for this, for what this club needs. A part of me just feels like have a little bit of that selfish edge to you, where you say, well, actually, Manchester United job is a torrid job, but I'm going to make it my own. And when we talk about ruthlessness, we mean absolutely so ruthless that anyone that can see, if they fully implement what it is they want, there's there's going to be a lot of unhappy customers, but you see it through to the very end. What we've seen in various cases, several times this season, in the very least, is that I don't necessarily get the full impression that, and whether this is completely Amorim's fault or not, to me doesn't necessarily matter. he's not feeling very convinced about himself, and that is a bit of a problem. Because if you're not convinced of yourself, how can anyone else be? And I think that's a quite a cause for concern for me. So we've established now that Amorim really doesn't feel very attached to this job at all. There's now this looming air of bring him back for a second crack at the whip after he's been sacked after failing to qualify for Champions League in Jose Mourinho, one Portuguese manager for another. I can see there's calls for that to happen. But I still think that even so, there's definitely a feeling around Manchester United that doesn't really matter who the manager is, that there's just a poison, there's a cancer at Manchester United that needs to be cut out. And make no mistake, the cancer, a very abhorrent cancer that is still here, that's been just completely ignored and left to fester, is Glazer ownership, and then a Glazer associated partnership by Ineos. And people seem to constantly forget this. And even the protest group, the 1958, seem to forget that the fact that the Glazer family is a cancer of Manchester United. Absolutely are. It's just this, again, when we've looked at how they conduct the business, the second there's a bit of pressure, sign a player, put out some positive stories, do the little things, and the fan base will come back around again. I think we've gone past the breaking point where it should have been the last straw for the Glazers, and we're now seeing the partnership of Ineos, of Glinios, we'll call them Glinios, that we're seeing even the most anti-Glazer protest groups are saying, let's give them a chance. What chance do they deserve? The Glazers have had, what, 18 years now? 18, 19 years to play around with this? It's not going too well, is it? And Ineos come in with their little ideas. But one thing that it sort of dawns upon me in realization, that I know we're talking about the structure of Ineos and recruitment strategies and everything that they brought to the table, and how we say, oh well, we've got the footballing board. Actually, to realize this is very important. The field of expertise that every person in our board currently served previously were very good at their jobs. Very, very good at their jobs. Some of the best in class, some of the best in the world. But pretty much all of them have never worked at the current positions they fill, nor the level that they're at. It's like Omar Barada has never been a CEO of a football club before. He's only been a COO. Jason Wilcox, from academy director to a director of football. Christopher Vivell, technical, or somebody from a technical level, becomes head of his department as well. There's a lot of people who are entering their own first time roles. Maybe where they were fantastic before, they're not expected to excel in the current positions, in the new ones. When you step up, when you get the promotion, sometimes you're not the best cut out for that role post promotion. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Personally, I think that there could be some legs to that, but we'll have to see. It's for some of them, they're viewing it as a long term project. Well, let's see what long term to some of these guys actually means. Let's see what it actually means for a lot of these guys. Now, the look ahead: Burnley tomorrow in the Premier League. It's at home. Confidence is on the floor, but I still somehow feel like Manchester United has got to find a result somewhere here. And I think if losing to Burnley becomes a reality, then the idea of sacking the manager becomes too big to ignore. It becomes too big to ignore because even last season, Amorim could have probably would have scraped a win out of this game. But even if he can't do that against a Burnley side newly promoted, and then on top of that, with a brand new strike force, trying to play more quick transition football, if you can't find a result with that, then I think it's not about Amorim sucks as a manager. It's just the project has not worked out. The system has not they've not been able to implement it. Is that Amorim's fault that he's not been able to implement it, or is it a collective issue? Players not trying, the board not removing players quick enough, the board not signing players quick enough, a collective issue. And I think in terms of how we felt last season, the sole appointment of Amorim felt like there was an air of um, pointlessness to it. It's like, why would we do that? Why did we hire Amorim at the moment? Why did we hire him halfway through a season and then say, oh, it's a long-term project for the guy? It just feels like to me that there's decisions that have happened that have partially set Amorim up to fail, but I just think in other aspects, just not very well educated. Don't get me wrong, I think the signing of Cunha and Mbeumo are very, very good. Sesko is again a good signing from a project standpoint. You're for a guy that's at 22 years of age, the aim there is to give him time and experience and to build a team and have him as your focal point and see how far he can take it. And if it doesn't work out, well, several years down the line, he'll be at a good age with good experience and would see a fair few clubs interested in the prospect there. But yeah, for me, it just feels like Ineos this summer have just missed the mark in the enormity of the project. We needed a midfielder, still not signed one. Needed a goalkeeper, still haven't signed one. Needed an experienced left wing back, not signed one. Could have had two midfielders, actually, to be fair. Well, we should have had two. And Bruno should have left as well. A backup centre back could have been an idea. There's various factors here that the board needed to pay attention to and failed to. And now we walk into the third Premier League game of the season with absolutely nothing to offer. So it could very realistically be 1 point from 9, and then your next two fixtures after that are Manchester City and Chelsea. That is cataclysmic. You need to look. We need to look at this game as it's 3 points, or the manager probably is going to have to go, because that's an indictment for the season. It's going to be an indictment for the season, and it's not about the manager sucks. It's just by way of circumstance, and perhaps it's not his fault that he's in this position, but you need to think, well, the trajectory we had in mind, we've already fallen short with the aspect of financially needing Europa League as a minimum for the next 4 years to financially sort of live up to the level we need to be at. We've already fallen short of that. We're not in Europe at all. We're already out of the Carabao Cup, so we can't even fight for a competition to get us into Europe through the Conference League. It's Premier League position, which is already looks like a bridge too far. It already looks like a bridge too far. And then you've got the FA Cup, which doesn't start until halfway through the season, by which point we could be in the worst form we've ever seen Manchester United in. It's a possibility. Now, in terms of the approach versus what we saw against Grimsby, I still think Sesko, Ibermo, and Cunha need to start together. I can't be seeing experimentation. It has to be you go with the very strongest 11 you can possibly field. I don't care if it's only Burnley. I don't care. The strongest 11 you possibly have has got to play. They've got to start. You've got no choice, because we need to see if this project is going to work or if it's not. Right? Because you're effectively off on the cusp of writing it off when we go into battle against City and Chelsea. Because if we can't get the job done against Burnley, we sure as hell are going to get our asses handed to us by Manchester City and also Chelsea. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. The midfield needs to have balance to it. Good defensive cover, but something there that, you connect to the attacking line well. Utilize balance between wide approaches with the wing backs, but also utilize the channels in the centre. Quick transitional play where your wing back can play into one of your 10s and they feed it through into the number 9, or one of your midfielders advance to support with one of the wider plays and transition to centre, or central to wide, and then bring the ball into the target man through a cross. Whatever happens, we have to try and utilise as much of a balanced approach as possible. So every area of Manchester United's team is tested, and that's what we need. We need the team to be tested. But as far as a prediction in terms of scoreline, I said last night it'll probably be a 2-1, because I know a lot of people will say, well, Burnley are going to run through United. I don't think it's quite as simple as that. I wouldn't like to think it's as simple as that, which sets it up where if it is well and truly as simple as that, then the problems are so much worse than we initially anticipated. So much worse. So yeah, that's my score prediction, 2-1. Let me know what your predictions for the game are in the comment section down below. On the transfer front, as I mentioned, no talks of midfielder coming in. What a shame. And very delayed processing of a goalkeeper. Double shame. I've not even mentioned Andre Onana, and he should be in this segment about immediate emergency sale. And not just emergency sale, you try and sell him by deadline. If you can't sell him until just after deadline, then sack him. Send him to the unemployment line. Because a Grimsby Town League 2 goalkeeper showed way more substance as a goalkeeper than an Andre Onana has for several seasons now. And the Grimsby Town goalkeeper managed that in a game. That's the world that we're living in, which is why, looking at someone like Sene Lammens, it's absolutely essential we do this deal. And it's like people say, oh, he's going to be the backup to Onana. I don't think the fans will allow it. I think the fans will protest against Onana and say, well, if Lammens comes in, he's a shot stopper. Get him into the team today. Even if he comes in for one training session and Andre Onana's been prepping the whole week, Sene Lammens is already way more qualified to start in that United team than Andre Onana is on his best day. That's how bad the Onana situation is, man. He needs to be sold and sold fast. But speaking of other sales, Garnacho is finally gone. We're looking at a £40 million package deal from Chelsea, a 7-year contract he's on, as you do with Chelsea. And with them coming up, I can see that Garnacho is absolutely just chomping at the bit to get into the team for that fixture, because he'll want to stick it to United. I can see him running all over the pitch if Garnacho were to end up finding a way to get the back of the net. But yeah, not the biggest transfer fee in the world, but what can you say for a guy that's lost all reputation? And I think United shining a light on that has probably hampered it rather than talking him up and getting clubs believing that he's actually something potentially really, really special. You know, people have shone the light on his bad attitudes, really toxic attitude, and it's killed his price. It's killed his price 100%. But it is what it is. He had to go. You got rid of him. Anthony, by the looks of it, the deal with Real Betis have essentially agreed terms. So that deal looks like it's finally going through. Malacia is linked with the exit door. Looks like Elche from the La Liga. But the deal looks more like a loan. And I don't think there would be, in essence, obligation or option to buy, given that Malacia is entering the last year of his contract. So, yeah, that's where we are at with sales at the moment. Very quiet on the Sancho front. Guy's probably going to end up sticking to United for a year, playing no football. And as I've said before, he thinks it's going to work out for him. No shot. No chance. I think the latest links have spoken about Dortmund being interested, but that's the players of Dortmund showing interest. But the hierarchy are unsure about the discipline of Jadon Sancho. And yeah, that's pretty much where we are at this moment in time. There was mention about Kobbie Mainoo being linked with the exit door, and it's a bit of a weird one because the club, or what's reported, is essentially Kobbie Mainoo doesn't see himself leaving the club permanently. Right, he wants to continue as a United player. He wouldn't be against going out on loan, given the circumstance that the likelihood of him being picked is actually quite low. He feels he should be getting minutes, and with the World Cup season coming up, he needs to be playing if he wants a chance of playing in the English national team. He's already been omitted from this up and coming international break. He will want to turn that around ASAP and get himself on to try and get himself a place on that plane. So yeah, that's the loan aspect of it. However, we've also heard as part of rumour with that story that Manchester United, should they receive a bid of about £45 million upwards, that they would they wouldn't stand in Kobbie Mainoo's way. So it's just a bit of a weird one. They wouldn't stand in his way, but if a loan offer comes in, Manchester United will say no, 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 no. We're standing in the way of a loan deal. The player wants the loan. The player doesn't want to leave permanently, but if the permanent deal comes in, the club are happy for you to go. So it's like you're trying to bridge the gap here, but you keep sort of missing where the agreement should be there. For me, I don't think Kobbie Mainoo should go. I think he's definitely got a big part to play in the season, and I want to believe that he's got the talent required to really implement himself in the team. And yeah, I think for me, Kobbie Mainoo staying, I would happily see Bruno go. Even now, I'd happily see him go. And just on the whole, as far as the system is concerned, Kobbie Mainoo definitely needs to play a lot more. He needs to play a lot more, 100%. But that, I suppose you could say, is a bit more of a thing of frustration, because maybe there isn't necessarily the role in the team for Kobbie Mainoo. Maybe if it was a midfield three as one of the 2 8s, you could say, well, Mainoo could play as one of those 2 8s as opposed to a 6. That maybe there is something to be said there. Quite possibly. But for me, I just think that Kobbie Mainoo needs to be given a chance at proving himself. So fingers crossed that happens, and fingers crossed that Manchester United don't make a stupid mistake. And what would be crazy is if Mainoo were to be let go for 45 million, that United then wouldn't think about a midfielder because, oh well, we're going to wait for next summer, and they'll go, nah, the midfield is fine. My guy, we get run through every single week. We get absolutely ran through like Lily Phillips or Bonnie Blue. Absolutely ran through. And that's not what I want. That's not what I want. And I'm hoping for other United fans, it's not what you want either. But if you're a rival fan, then you're praying that this happens. But anyways, I'm going to call it a day there. Enjoy the rest of your Friday nights and anticipation for tomorrow, this weekend's fixtures. Fingers crossed, 3 o'clock tomorrow. Manchester United kick off against Burnley. Hopefully, we can turn a little bit of the fortunes around and pick up ourselves a win. Fingers crossed we can do that. And ultimately, Ruben Amorim, do not play experimentation. Just stick the strongest 11 the club has to offer on that pitch and manage the game. That's all I ask. Because 3 points is a must tomorrow. But put your thoughts and your feelings down in the comment section. As well as that, don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe. And yeah, smash a like. Well, actually, this is the reverse psychology. Smash the dislike if you're desperate If you support another club and you're desperate for Manchester United to win, yeah, smash a dislike. Absolutely wetting the floor in anticipation and excitement for Manchester United to destroy and wipe the floor with Burnley Football Club. Stick the clicks on that dislike button. I swear to God, if I see that dislike button's looking like Darth Vader's lightsaber, I'm going to be partially creasing and partially just null and void and out of hope. But anyways, that's me for tonight. Take care. Enjoy your Friday nights. We'll be back again for tomorrow night to discuss the game in review, and hopefully that is we are in a positive place. Fingers crossed. Pray for Manchester United. Pray, pray, and pray some more. Take care, people. Enjoy your Fridays. Take care. Ciao for now.